It's a frosty morning, early days of December 2022. A Russian person walks the quiet street in one of Helsinki's industrial estates. An unusual car draws their attention. This model was never sold in Finland. While most of the car is covered with snow, a sticker on the rear window, a contour of Ukraine in blue-yellow colors, draws their attention. On closer inspection, the car also bears a sticker with a large letters UK. Surely it has to be Ukrainian. The Russian comes closer. They try to peel the Ukrainian sticker off. As they started from Crimea, the sticker breaks at the narrowest point. They got angry. They try to break off the wing mirrors. But it turns to be impossible too. Turns out in this model mirrors can fold in both directions. They spit at the windscreen in anger, then write in big letters "Nahui" on the driver's window. They still can't get enough satisfaction. Digging through their pockets, they manage to find a piece of paper and a pen. A pen does not work well in the freezing condition, but they eventually get it going. This is not a place for this car. Go to Ukraine, defend your country, they write, and they draw a picture offensive to Ukrainians. They stick the piece of paper under one of the windscreen wipers and finally walk away. There is a saying, be careful what you wish. 3 years later, this very car became a part of Ukrainian struggle for freedom. This is a Lewackie Pitolenie podcast. How a Polish drunk driver helped to make a Russian's wish true. Chapter 1. Helsinki. My name is Tomasz Orynski. It was my car. I really liked it. I bought it new and drove it for 16 years, trying to keep it in pristine condition. 3 years ago, I just moved from Glasgow to Helsinki, and back then, the car was still on its original Scottish plates and was displaying an UK sticker. It was only recently after Boris Johnson made a change from GB to UK, and it was still confusing people on a regular basis. 3 years after finding that vulgar note in Russian behind my windscreen wiper, I have been sitting in my flat in Helsinki wearing a neck brace and suffering from a lot of pain. I was angry and depressed, watching how everything around me is falling apart. I was desperate to find something good that I could do in my situation. And then I recalled one trip I did 3 years ago. I am just an ordinary guy and I can't do much, but I was doing my best to help Ukraine. When the full-scale invasion started, I worked 3 days a week. I decided to pick up an extra shift and donate my earnings from that for a good cause. Every even week I donated to Ukraine, every odd week to other humanitarian causes that might be overlooked when the world's attention turned out to the Russian-induced war. I tried to help in any other way I could too. After moving my belongings, I offered my van for transport of humanitarian help from Helsinki to a logistic hub in northern Poland, so the van won't waste a trip going empty. Soon after, while still seeking for work, I volunteered to drive the same route again, this time in a car that was destined for the Ukrainian army. Other than that, I was not able to help much after my move to Finland. Setting in a new country is not easy, and one needs time and effort to achieve some stability. I worked for a year, then for another I attended a full-time Finnish classes. On completion of my language course, I again started a job hunt, but with unemployment at a level of over 12%, this is not an easy thing for a foreigner. The money was running thin, so I was not even sure if I will be able to afford going to Poland for my father's 80th birthday. Finally, I got a job, and a nice one too. I was supposed to drive a truck between Finland and Spain for a young, fast-growing removal company. I worked for a few days, doing some local removals, and then agreed to get a few days off to go to Poland. The birthday party was fantastic, and then my partner flew to her family to Italy, and I jumped behind the wheel to drive back to Helsinki. I don't like motorways, they are boring, so I often opt out for secondary roads, and if I only have time, I try to see something on the way, turning a dual drive into yet another road trip adventure. I visited a narrow gauge railway near Łódź and started driving towards Warsaw when a disaster struck me.
Reżim w Wenezueli się utrzymie u władzy mimo protestu. I tutaj jak najbardziej trafiłem. Prezydenta nie będzie. Proszę bardzo, trafiłem.
The disaster came in a form of a drunk driver. He had been 18 times over the legal limit and yet somehow still able not only to drive at high speed but also to flee the scene of the accident on foot. I was really impressed by the Polish police, who turned up on the scene in less than 15 minutes and began a wild-scale manhunt involving drones and several police vehicles. Less than 3 hours later, the driver was presented to me handcuffed for identification. The police found my car to be safe to drive, so I limped to Warszawa and stayed with my auntie, trying to solve the insurance issues. I was desperate to get back to Helsinki ASAP, as the first long-distance run in my new job was about to start. The Polish insurance company that the other driver's car had been insured was not much help, and they refused to provide me with a replacement vehicle. My Finnish insurer suggested that if the car is drivable, I should take it to Helsinki and then we will work from there. So this is what I did. A couple of days later, I was sitting with my friend at his porch and complained how my pain, which I expected to be just a muscle tension due to sudden jolt, is not going away. We were sitting on the hard wooden benches and suddenly my pain became worse. My friend forced me to contact the health service and I was ordered to report to the hospital as soon as possible. Long story short, few hours later I've been locked in a neck brace for the foreseeable future with a diagnosis of a broken vertebrae. Next few weeks were really hard. I was in constant pain and sleep deprived, as it was nearly impossible to get a good night's sleep even after 2 weeks when I was allowed to remove the neck brace for the night. To top it off, my new job was gone. Clearly, under those circumstances, they could not wait for me to recover and had to find someone else to do it. And to make things worse, the insurance company was doing everything to avoid paying. They lowballed me on my car, they claimed my injuries were either non-existing or not related to the accident, and refused to pay any of my lost income, as they claimed due to the fact that I just started a new employment, they have no way to say how much I would earn in this new job, so they just assumed it was zero, even though the company provided me with a formal letter estimating my income. I was getting depressed. Everything was falling apart. Then, during one of the many conversations with the insurance customer service agent, they mentioned that I can keep the wreckage of my car if I agree to have my payout reduced by €200. Otherwise, they will just scrap the car as they deemed it uneconomical to repair. I would hate to see my cherished car that was driving perfectly well and has been to this point very well maintained. Just a month before the trip to Poland, I spent over $1,000 on suspension overhaul to go to the scrapyard. Surely there can be still some use to it. And then I recall those November days 3 years ago when, with a Finnish guy called Mika, we drove 2 ordinary Volvos that were to be used for Ukrainian war effort through the Baltic states and eastern Poland to the border crossing in Medyka. I remember talking with Ukrainians how all kinds of cars are needed for the front lines. Maybe they would want mine too. True, it's a bit mangled on the back, but it drives well and the tailgate even closes properly if you slam it hard enough. I contacted some friends and soon I've been put in touch with one of the Ukrainian soldiers whose unit could use a new set of wheels as their Tavria was falling apart. I spoke with my partner and it was decided. I will drive to Ukraine as soon as I will recover from my injuries well enough to be able to survive such a trip. This meant that the journey will not happen within at least few weeks, which later turned to be well over a month, as I was not healing as quick as doctors initially predicted. That gave me another idea. If the car goes all the way to Ukraine, it will be a shame if it was to arrive empty, right? I spoke with Stas, the soldier whose unit was to get my car, and asked what they need. Power banks, he said. Such things are expensive, but one thing I had was time and some friends. I reached out to the editors of both of internet portals I regularly write for, Byline Scotland and a Czech-language portal Britskie Listy, and asked if I set up a crowdfunding page, will they help me to publicize it? They agreed, and so I reached out to the people asking, help me to give power to Ukrainian soldiers. I was not hoping too much. After all, I'm just a nobody asking strangers for money. We might be able to get a couple £100, I thought to myself. Maybe boys will be happy with some smaller power banks too. But the fundraiser went surprisingly well. I was stunned and honored on learning that so many people are willing to trust me enough to donate sometimes quite significant amounts of money. Some even donated to my personal Ko-fi page to help me cover some other costs, as I made it clear from the beginning that not a penny from the powerbank fundraiser will be used on anything related to my car or the journey itself. Some people reached out offering to help in other ways. It turned out that we can source the very model of the power banks that soldiers seek the most in Poland much cheaper than in Finland. A friend of mine offered to sort out the purchase using her company's contacts, then doubled down on her offer, saying she will cover the VAT if I raise enough money to buy 2 of those toys. A couple of weeks of spamming all over my social media later and pestering my friends to share my links, which I usually hate, but made an exception as it was for the good cause, and we got enough of money. I was ready to go, or so I thought. Turns out that the withdrawing money from the fundraising page is not so easy. I'd understand they need to make sure that the money won't be embezzled, but it seemed to me that the company is maximizing all the time in order to keep money on their bank account for as long as possible. This coincided with some Polish bank holidays, and finally my trip began almost a week later than I hoped. Which turned out to be for the best, as meanwhile the car that was sitting idle under a pile of autumn leaves as I was recovering from my injuries made it very clear that he does not like to be kept stationary for such long periods of times. For the first time in 16 years the check engine light came up, but I would not even need this to notice that something was not right. At this point, I was completely skinned. I had 13 euros in my bank, waiting desperately for my delayed incapacity benefit to arrive. I reached out to my friend Julius to help. He used to be a mechanic in the army, but there was only so much he could do with a set of basic tools to the car parked on the street outside of his home on a windy, rainy November day. You need a proper workshop, or at least someone with a computer that could plug in and tell us what's wrong with the car, he said. I could not, of course, afford any of that. I reached out to my Ukrainian friend who volunteers for Auta Ukraina, an Ukrainian charity for whom I once transported that stuff to Poland in my van. The Ukrainian association in Finland is quite large, maybe they know some mechanic, I asked. A few hours later I was given the contact to Vadim. Soon I arrived at his place in Vanta, when he plugged his laptop to diagnose the issues. He removed the air filter, which turned out to have cracked casing, and offered to fix it. He suggested that putting a new set of spark plugs might provide a temporary improvement until the car's electric system that suffered from long period of idleness can be properly fixed. We agreed to do it next day, and he started to put the car together as I had an emergency and had to take my cat to the vet. And then the car just stopped working altogether. I was already blown with the amount of trust and kindness of the people who decided to support me in my effort to bring a little help to Ukraine, but this moment just blew me away. Vadim just took keys to his own car from his pocket and told me to jump in and drive my cats to the vet. He only asked me to promise to drop the car off the same evening as his wife needed in the morning. And then to wait for his call, as he will let me know when he gets my own car running properly again. And so everything was ready. While the car's engine was still rocking slightly when idling, everything worked just fine. The power banks have been delivered to my longtime internet friend, whom I never met in real life before, who agreed not only to take delivery for me to call it en route, he lives in eastern Poland, but also to put me up for the night. The ferry was booked, and I did not even have to go too far east. Stas, the soldier, happened to be in Lviv for his holidays for the next 10 days or so. Chapter 2. On the road along the eastern border of the European Union. Proszę, wyjazd się już zaczyna, a tymczasem leciutko przypruszyło śnieżkiem i pierwsze w tym roku skrobanie szyby. Jak to tam było? Of course, with my luck, the day of my departure happened to be the first day of snow in Helsinki. Luckily, I left myself enough time to spare. I have an annoying habit of running almost late for the ferry every time I go somewhere, and even though I never missed it, it is always a stressful situation. This time I had enough time to give my girlfriend a lift to the local shopping center. It was an emotional moment for us, as I had this car for all these years we've been together. We drove all over Scotland in it, often camping inside when the weather was too harsh to place a tent out. She learned to drive on it, and not many learner drivers can say they have been driving both in places like A1 near Peterborough, as well as on a single track of a tiny Orkney island of Hoy. We were visiting Poland with it at least once a year, and a few years back we made a wonderful trip across the most scenic places in France and Switzerland to Tuscany, crossing the Alps via one of the highest road passes in Europe. So yes, it was a sentimental moment for both of us. To co, Ula? Ostatnia jazda naszym autkiem, bo po drodze na promo dążycie do sklepów.
Shit.
No.
A dobrze, że autko będzie miało drugie życie. Mam nadzieję, że długie. Jeszcze troszkę przeżyję to autko, aby jak najlepiej służyło.
No tak. No to co? To jedziemy. Soon I was at the ferry terminal. I took my voice recorder with me as I wanted to take voice notes to write an article I promised to my readers, but then I thought to myself, since I record voice notes anyway, why not to make it a podcast? True, I felt a bit silly cosplaying as Twin Peaks agent Cooper and recording notes while driving, but I kept at it, trying to memorize every thought, observation or notable moment. And so, this is a voice diary from my trip from Helsinki to Ukraine. Okay, so I'm on the ferry. Incidentally, this is the same ferry that over 3 years ago I arrived to Finland when I moved in with the same car and my cats on board. Incidentally, it's also the same ferry that almost exactly 3 years ago I've drove on with that Volvo car I've been delivering for the Ukrainian army as a volunteer. That's how I know they need ordinary cars as well. Well, we are already leaving the port, even though it's a bit early, but I guess everyone was already on board. I feel a bit nostalgic, you know, I really enjoyed this car. I got it since I got it brand new in 2009, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with it before the accident, so let's hope we serve well. And meanwhile, I will keep you updated. So I'm now on the ferry. In the ferry terminal in Tallinn, we are just about to disembark and I'm starting to drive. I've been on the phone with Stas, who's taking the car, and we were talking about formalities we need to do when the car arrives in the Ukraine. So it was a productive sale, and now it's time to get some driving. One more thing I wanted to say. When I got on this ferry 3 years ago with that car for the Ukrainian army, I never would expect that 3 years later we'll still be dealing with this shit. My voice notes sometimes were just a plain record of how the journey is going, what the road conditions are, and what podcasts I have been listening to. So I stopped for a while in Parno, where I grabbed some little snack. I wasn't that hungry yet, so I didn't get a proper dinner or anything. The roads are treacherous. There's a lot of snow, not a lot of snow, but I guess quite a lot for November. So everything off the road is white, and the roads are in very many places black ice. I'm listening to some podcasts, I'm catching up on some old ones, so I just listened to The Troll when the girls were talking with Jimmy the Giant. And then I listened to some old chapters of All Points North, Finnish public broadcaster English language podcast. I'm intending to drive a bit more and then stop and grab some probably fast food or something. And then drive a bit more, and then we'll see how the things are going. So far, so good. But driving through the Baltic states makes me think how much those countries have improved since they regained their independence and aligned themselves with the European family. It is visible even in the infrastructure as you drive. During this trip, I was able to cross for the first time the new bridge built in Salac-Griva with the help of European funds. Soon I arrived at the stretch of the road that goes along the Vitrupe beach, where I always stop, even if I'm there in the middle of the night, and go for a walk. I'm in Latvia now. I passed the new bridge, and now I'm at this place slightly north from Riga, where the road is going alongside the beach. I always try to stop here because it's so beautiful, but today, or rather tonight, is so windy that I don't think I want to get out of my car, so I think I will just go. It is amazing and wonderful that in the European Union, within just a few hours of driving, you can cross flawlessly 2 borders and visit 3 countries. It is also amazing that those countries, even though they are relatively small, still differ a lot in many ways. Unfortunately for Latvia, that also included the road quality. Hello, so it's after midnight already. I'm in Kaunas, just on the outside of Kaunas, taking fuel. It's about just after midnight. I don't really like driving through Lithuania because it has the worst roads of all the countries as you go up and down from Finland to Poland. They are full of like patched potholes, and they are uneven and with these ruts from the lorries. Also, there is something that I hate, and it's the same as in Poland, that people probably heat their homes with coal or whatever rubbish they can find and throw to the furnace. So when you go through some small villages, and I often go the alternative roads because I don't like driving when there's too much traffic. I'd rather drive like 15 minutes, 20 minutes longer, but on the smaller roads. But driving through villages sometimes it can be really, really stinky. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of beautiful places too. I've been just driving through some nice city, and it was really nice, beautiful, well illuminated over the river. I think Steve Marsh, the YouTuber, was once in this city. I forgot its name now. But as usual, I'm just driving through. I have no time. I keep promising to myself that I will one day go for a proper road trip and see some places, but it's not going to be this time yet. I drove for a bit more after that last recording, but soon it was time to look for a place to stop and have some sleep. Okay, so this is my next entry in my journey chronicle, sound chronicle. I'm almost in Poland now, literally like 10 kilometers across the border from Sejny. And I don't like hotels when I'm traveling because I like to drive late into the night. So if I have to stop for the hotel, obviously you need to check in early and so on. So it makes no sense for me. And you either have to plan ahead or you end up searching for a hotel at last moment when you're already tired. So I got used to that. When you are a driver, you can just stop whenever and sleep. I'm trying to do that when I'm driving my car as well. The seats are folding flat and I can have a comfortable sleep. Unfortunately, tonight it seems to be one of the first nights of the year with freezing temperatures, but luckily I got my proper sleeping bag today. So let's hope I'll be okay. You know, I'm an avid camper. I camped even in winter when I was a kid, maybe not a kid, but a teenager and in my early 20s. So I'm used to this and I feel quite comfortable. It's quiet here, it's dark here, and I got warm sleeping bag. That's all we need. Good night. I had a bit of a funny situation here, as it turns out that due to the accident damage, the car's central locking system only works if you use the key from outside. So to be safe and lock myself in my car, I had to open the window, lock the doors with the key from the outside, then close the window again. I hope central lock will not be the crucial device for the military use of this car. Hello everyone, it's the morning. I slept really well, although I'm glad I got this warm sleeping bag, because it's now 10:45 and it's still freezing temperature. All the grass is white from frost, which looks astonishingly beautiful. It's a nice landscape with small hills. I'm driving a side road and I just passed a vehicle that had a big ball of hay. How you call that? This round thing that it's mechanically compressed. And he stopped because the road is bumpy and it almost jumped out of his trailer because it was not strapped at all. Well, choice of rural living in Lithuania, I guess. Apart from that, it's quite beautiful. I'm well rested. I'm driving slowly towards Poland and I will be looking for some place for my breakfast. The place I've been driving at this point is called Suwałki Gap. It's a narrow stripe of land at the border of Poland and Lithuania, where the EU territory is flanked by Kaliningrad district from one side and Belarus on the other. The military analysts predict that if Russia even dares to attack NATO, this will be the very point they will try to hit, as by cutting it out they will separate the Baltic states from the rest of the EU. Luckily, now with Finland also being a member of NATO, the Baltics can always hope to get help across the Baltic Sea from their northern neighbor. Still, you can feel a nervousness around this area. I saw a few military vehicles, and while this time I haven't noticed anything, on my previous journeys to Poland, where I traveled closer to Kaliningrad border, the sat-nav became nearly useless due to jamming activities coming from the Russian territory. This is also the point where the Polish government had, against the Schengen rules, established checkpoints at the border. They say it's because of illegal immigration. Russia is using migrants to destabilize the region, pushing them at the Polish and Lithuanian borders from Belarus. But one can suspect that this might also be due to the Russian sabotage activity. One thing is clear, we are not living in the peaceful times. So here I am in Poland already. There was a border control because our government is crazy about migrants and try to show people that they are protecting our borders. It's a bit silly in my view, because last time I've been driving to Poland, I deliberately went through some really minor road and there was no border control at all. And now I came through this secondary road for purpose because I wanted to see if the border control is here. So it is. It's on the car park, despite that there's still unused border crossing facilities here. The border guards were very nice. We had a small chat. They checked the documents, looked into my boot. It's all just, a theater, I would say. I can't see how that is going to help anyone, apart from that it has to cost a fortune, and those guys have to sit here in the frost, and, well, I don't envy them. This is what governments that are trying to appease the right wing are doing. They just waste money on stupid exercises like this. As you can hear, I was not impressed by this whole exercise at that point. It's only now, when I'm safely at home and reading about the Russian saboteurs who tried to blow up the Polish railways just a few days later, I've noticed that there may be something more than just political reasons for those checks. Anyway, the rest of the journey through Poland went rather uneventful, and soon I was closing on my friend's home near Lublin. Hi, this is a next part of my journey's diary. I'm driving slowly across the eastern Poland, driving south towards Lublin. I'm nearly there, less than 1 hour to my friend's place. I'm driving smaller roads because they are less boring, and also because of the damage to my car that had been in the accident. The plastic bits of the bumper stick a bit, and if I drive more than 110 kilometers per hour, they start flapping in the wind. I probably could glue it with a duct tape or something, but I don't have anything like that, so I'm just driving slowly through the back roads, which is also more enjoyable, or at least it was until just before Lublin, because here there are this type of villages that are just one long road with houses on both sides, so it's 50 speed limits all the time, and also the roads got worse. There are a lot of potholes here, as you can probably hear on this recording. But anyway, the journey over the day was pretty uneventful. I had some lunch in Augustów, I had coffee in Siemiatycze, and I'm nearly in Lublin. Finally, I arrived at my friend's house. He could not be more welcoming. He invited me for a giant schnitzel. We sat down with a beer and started to chat. I asked him to give me a short interview, as I thought it might be a good insight. Many Westerners think that what's happening to Ukraine is not our war. Even many people in Poland believe so. But Jakub's house is located less than 100 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Surely his perspective must be a bit different.
Well, I live in eastern Poland, which is pretty much close to the Ukrainian border, and I was asked to give you an opinion on how it is to live so close to our country.
I've noticed that when I ask you to help me, you said instantly, if it's for Ukraine, I'm all for helping. So
that was obvious. It's clear for me that we need to help Ukraine to fight that foreign invasion it is facing for the last 10 years, over 10 years now. And it is clearly trying, it's not a losing battle that they are fighting, it's a winning battle that they are fighting, provided they get some help from us.
And every little helps, even some old car and 2 power banks, I guess.
That's the point. The Russians are not using their high-tech weapons on the front line either. They are using whatever they can scrap and get to the front line. So basically, even the most basic things, I do believe that will help that effort.
But tell me, you used to live in England, now you're back in Poland, and like compared to where I am from in Western Poland, you are pretty close. It's like 1 hour, 1.5 hour drive to the big Ukrainian border. So I guess if you live here, this war feels completely different to if you still lived in Liverpool or wherever it was.
Well, I used to live in Liverpool, and I do believe the experience of living so close to a place which is now invaded and frequently bombarded, so close to where I live now, changes your viewpoint completely. It is so not only because you see those people, or used to see those people running from those atrocities of war, but also just because you get to feel that more closely, even if the Polish Air Force scrambles its jets to intercept something that could possibly intrude Polish airspace, you get that on your couch or in your bed, because it gets to you instantly if you get a low-flying jet fighter over your home at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's obvious, isn't it?
Do you feel it in any other way? Because, for example, my girlfriend's family lives in northern Poland, and last time we were heading back to Finland from there, we had to drive alongside the Kaliningrad district border, and the sat-nav went completely mad because they are jamming the sat-nav from Russia. There's the similar issues in Finland, for example. Someone told me that his family runs a big farm, and they used to use this GPS tracking for their farm machinery, and they are no longer able to do so because the Russians are jamming GPS from Russia.
Well, the GPS jamming was an issue here several months ago, but still it is not an issue now. So they were probably testing some high amp equipment on us in summer. But when it comes to the experience of that, we are seeing a lot of military moving around this place, and it's not a comforting view to see a lot of military vehicles, which are not very used to see, suddenly appear around this region. Our regional airport, because the Rzeszów hub was no longer able to handle the logistics required to deliver some of the stuff to Ukraine, took over, and we've experienced a lot of military flights. I started to point. I do have a 7-year-old son who's very into the Air Force and airspace technology. And when we first saw a 747 at our small local airport, that was a shocker. We no longer go out to the terrace and all to observe even the Antonov 124s, because it became a daily routine for us and not something out of the ordinary now.
Yeah, so even if you live still quite far away from Ukraine, it still has an impact on you. And all the refugees also travel this way, because you live in the city that it's basically on the main route from Lviv to Warsaw.
Yes.
So it's a major transport corridor.
Yes, I remember in 2022 when all that madness started, so the full-scale war started, we organized meals, we organized accommodation among our friends and anyone basically who could find some place for shelter for these people. And I do believe these people were not seeking refuge just because they wanted to. They were really scared. It was a wave after wave, actually. It was thousands of people in my small town, which is, I think, 40k town now. which were helpless. They were stranded here and sought for any sort of help. And I think we as a society did great in finding them some place, at least a contemporary place to stay, when all the other organizations and even our state failed miserably in doing so. So it was a grassroots initiative in this case, and I still remember that. It's been 3 years since then, but I still remember that it wasn't the government, it wasn't the NGOs or anything else which was able to organize at a short notice. It was the people around here who did.
Yeah, I may mention here, we did a podcast about that together with West Country Voices. They used to be in the Bylines network. I can link this in the description. When I spoke with several people who were active in helping Ukrainians, but now, after nearly 3 years since that podcast and over 3 years, almost 4 years of wars, I can say that according to some estimates, over 2 million of Ukrainian refugees came through Poland, and roughly half of them stayed in Poland. So, like, your everyday also, I guess, changed. Like, whenever I go in Wrocław, in my hometown, like waitresses, bus drivers, cleaners, there's so much of Ukrainian refugees. There was already quite a few Ukrainian people working in Poland before this full-scale invasion, but now it's just...
Well, the Ukrainian diaspora exists here for over 10 years now, and they are pretty much neatly organized, and they can support the countrymen. But the thing that happened in 2022 was just overwhelming everyone. And I think now there are fairly few businesses, newly established businesses, which were not established by the Ukrainian people. These people not only came here to seek shelter, but they form a significant driving factor for our economy as well.
Yeah, I think that's good thing you mentioned that, because of all this hysteria in Britain now about migrants stealing jobs and everything. I've read some estimates that Ukrainian workers and businesses are now contributing something like, correct me if I'm wrong, 1.6% of the Polish GDP.
I don't know the number. I do know the difference, the exact difference, which was indicated during a press conference by our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And that difference between the contributions the Ukrainians pay to the Polish social security system and the amount they got from that social security system is over 12 billion zlotys, which is roughly, the pound's sinking now, so I think 2.5 billion pounds.
Yeah, so to put it bluntly, the Ukrainian refugees, of which we got like 1 million or so still living in Poland, are net profit for the Polish economy.
That's the point. That's what that's really about. It's just because it may be because the Polish social security system is so poor, and it is only able to help you thrive if you are willing to help yourself. So it's not designed to help people endlessly. So, but the way that Ukrainians use that system is just marvelous. They do find work very fast. They don't really need to search for work with our current labor market, which is pretty much searching for workers instead of just trying to figure out a way to not to search for workers. We are an economy with a very low unemployment rate right now, but still I do believe Ukrainians are a very positive factor when it comes to our labor market, because without them, many Polish businesses would go bust by now, having to search for workers in Asia or Africa, even in Asia and Africa, because of the depletion of the Polish labor resources.
Yeah, even though so many people are coming back from Britain now. But since we already touched on that, which is something I didn't even thought before, tell me one thing, because if you read all this right-wing media, you hear the stories. Do you have any issues with immigration? Like crime is rising? Are you afraid to let your daughter walk on the streets because of all these refugees, or it's all really bullshit?
It is bullshit, utter bullshit. My daughter's got a Ukrainian classmate, so that would be even more so if I indicated her being endangered by by those who are coming to our country. No, not to the least of that. I would say the crime statistics for the Ukrainian population of Poland are much lower than for the domestic population. So I do believe they are more law-abiding, not citizens yet, I hope, someday, than the usual or the statistical poll is. So I have no issues with them whatsoever when it comes to that.
Okay, so just to finish, I want to thank you because you are not only agreeing to take that delivery for me so I can collect it on the way, but you also allow me couch surfing with you for a night, which is great after this long journey. But like in large part, these power banks we are delivering are funded by the Scottish readers of Bylands, Scotland. So is there anything you would like to tell them from your point of view? You think they should know something that they may not know living so far away?
Well, keep up the good job, you Scottish citizens. Maybe someday we will rejoin in EU.
Yeah, that would be nice to have them back.
As I was lying to sleep on the sofa bed in Jakub's living room, I've been thinking about what we spoke in this short interview. It is true, Ukrainian refugees are contributing enormously to the Polish economy by being and working here. It is only fair that Poland is spending all this money to provide any help, military or otherwise, we could. This is the least we can do to give the wealth brought to us by the hard work of Ukrainians in Poland back to their country. Because this is yet another aspect of Russian invasion that is not often spoken about. By forcing all those hard-working people, all those entrepreneurs with great business ideas out of their homeland, so they have to try and build their lives elsewhere, Russia robs Ukraine of their future too. Because all those billions Ukrainians contribute towards Polish economy should stay in their homeland. They should be making their own country better, not make us richer while their brothers and fathers are risking their lives in defense of their freedom. And even when the Ukraine will be successful and defend its freedom sometime soon, will all of them go back to their countries? Or some of them will already build their lives in their new homes and won't be thinking about returning to Ukraine? The morning came too soon and I had not slept well, even though the couch was very comfortable. Jakub spoke with a friend of his, a retired custom officer, who confirmed that the advice I found online that it would be better for me if I avoid going the direct route towards Lviv and opt out for one of the smaller border crossing instead. This also gave me a chance to see a small village near Volodymyr, where my grandmother was born, so after morning coffee, Jakub helped me to load power banks to my car, we took a selfie and left our separate ways. He went to the nearby bigger city to his office, and I drove the opposite directions towards the Ukrainian border. It's morning 17th of November now. I haven't slept well. I'm a bit stressed recently with all that's going on in my life and just couldn't go to sleep early. But I slept well, even though a bit too short. It was a fantastic evening yesterday because this friend who agreed to take delivery, we know each other online for more than quarter of the century, but this was the first time we actually met each other in real life, so it was a great excuse to catch up. His family is great as well. Now the power banks are loaded to my car and I'm heading for the border. I'm advised from the internet, from what I read, that it's better to go through one of the smaller border crossings. So I'm doing that, even though it's a bit of longer way from here. But on the good side, I will be able to visit a village that my grandmother was born, because she was born in what's today is Ukraine. So maybe I stop and snap a few pictures. The trip to the border was short and uneventful. I took some smaller roads, and I have to say, now the roads in Lithuania doesn't look so bad to me at all. So here I am, almost at the border. I have to say it's interesting because not only because driving in Poland is crazy and every village I'm slowing down to the speed limit and everybody else, including big trucks, is overtaking me, but also it feels you're close to the Ukraine because, for example, when I was going on the main road before, there was plenty of army trucks going up and down. And here on those smaller roads, there is plenty of border patrol cars. They're stopping vehicles, checking them up. I think in just last half an hour, I've seen at least 4 of them. So, yeah, it's what Kuba was saying yesterday, that you can feel that we are close to the Ukraine. And so I arrived at the border. The Polish side was spanking brand new, modern facilities co-funded by the European Union. I picked the EU passports only lane, but it was not enforced, so 2 Ukrainian cars were in the queue in front of me. I saw how complicated it is for them to cross the border. In one of the cars there was an elderly lady who had problems walking, yet she had to get out of the car and stand in front of a scanner that had been checking her biometric data. Each car took about 10 to 15 minutes to cross. Meanwhile, an officer came to me and took my passport, and when my turn came, I was just waved through. We don't often realize what a privilege it is to be a European citizen.
Moja dusza składaj.
After crossing the bridge over the river Bug that constitutes the border in that place, I found myself in another universe. It's as if I traveled in time back to 1990s Poland, an old building, a couple of kiosks and an omnipresent mat. The border facilities are under renovation and a large digger had been loading muddy soil onto seemingly already overloaded blue bonnetted ZIL truck. It was a small border crossing and the border guards were young, friendly and spoke good English, so I hoped for a smooth entry. But this was not to happen. This was the first part of how a drunk driver helped to make one Russian swish true. It was a lewackie pitolenie podcast, written, recorded and edited by me, Tomasz Oryński. Music, Krapka. Guitars, Artur Lesicki. Piano variation of the Ukrainian national anthem, public domain. As well as some other sound effects I used. I also used fragment of the song Obijmy by Okean Elzy, performed by the Polish singer Artur Gadowski and its original singer Światosław Wakarczuk. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will be with me for the second part of this podcast, in which there will be less about me, less of my ramblings, and we will hear more from the people whose opinion really matters, the Ukrainians.
Zapraszam.